Welcome, Mr. Denome, and welcome to Solving the Mystery of 80,009 Bitcoin, which were moved on the Independence Day of America, 4th of July. Now, this story is very interesting because we have an update, which is that once these 80,009 Bitcoin were moved on 4th of July, now yesterday that money has been starting to flow into Galaxy Digital, and from Galaxy Digital already 6,000 Bitcoin have moved onto Binance and Bybit, most likely to be sold there. So Galaxy Digital, it is an OTC desk. So what we can at least expect from this 80,009 Bitcoin is that half of it is most likely going to be sold on the market, maybe even more down the line after this has been sold. But it will take some time to be sold. But that is basically sell pressure for Bitcoin for at least a couple of weeks. Doesn't mean that Bitcoin will go down. Maybe the Bitcoin will be absorbed by the markets, but it is still sell pressure most likely. So that is one key thing. The second key thing is that there is open speculation if this is actually an exploit or a hack, because all of this Bitcoin, this 80,009 Bitcoin, were basically dormant for 14 years. And on 4th of July, they decided to wake up. So there's a couple of theories. Maybe it is moving Bitcoin to a safer wallet. Maybe it was a hack. Maybe the owner decided to buy off a country. Maybe it was ransom. There's a lot of different speculation, obviously, about this. And once this event happened, obviously a lot of speculation came about. The $9 billion Bitcoin mystery on July 5th. And then you can see, was it Satoshi Nakamoto that has emerged from the darkness and now is basically selling its Bitcoin? Maybe it was someone else. Maybe it was Roger Ver, who is basically hunted by the United States government as of now. He is the founder of Bitcoin Cash, and he has a lot of Bitcoin from the OG days back in the day. Maybe it was Craig Wright, who is the imposter for Satoshi Nakamoto, who lost in court that he is not actually Satoshi Nakamoto. A lot of different things. So let's actually get to the bottom of this and determine what this is actually about. And if you just want to get to the conclusions, you can do so using the timestamps in the description, but I will basically tell you the whole story as it unfolded since July 4th so far. So I read a lot of articles in the last week and a half. One of the best articles was on cyphertalks.net, and this was extremely detailed, but as you can see, the website has been taken down since, and I do not have the saved version of this website. I went to archive.org, I tried to use other Wayback Machines, but I could not get back the original article. Fortunately though, I actually found this copy pasted version of that article on Medium, and luckily I was able to find this, but unfortunately this is missing a lot of the detail that was on the original article. But I will go through this and explain as things go, and I will explain some of the contradictions as they come about when we read through the article, what this Bitcoin was actually about. So first off, Independence Day, July 4th, $8.6 billion of Bitcoin were moved without a trace. And 8 wallets, all of them had 10,000 Bitcoin in them, except one of them had 10,009 Bitcoin inside them. The money was moved at the same time in a perfectly coordinated way. Now, it wasn't exactly same time, it took multiple hours to transfer the Bitcoin, and also it was not perfectly coordinated. There was some contradictions that I will point out soon. But all in all, this is one of the biggest Bitcoin moves ever recorded and one of the most precisely executed operations if it was an exploit. And then all of the addresses, all of the 8 addresses, they were using the same address type P2PKH, and none of them had any activity, and they basically held the same amount of Bitcoin from the same era. So they had a common origin, maybe even generated automatically by a program at the same time. And then this is getting interesting. All of the addresses had these weird messages embedded inside that were sent to these messages before the Bitcoin were moved out of these wallets. So here we can see these messages, but let me hop over to the actual wallets here on mempool.space. So this wallet here, for example, this had 10,000 Bitcoin inside them and some change. And right now the confirmed balance is basically 0. So when we scroll down here, you can see on 4th of July at 3:03 p.m., 10,000 Bitcoin were moved out of it. And when we scroll down here, before that, on 30th of June, a cryptic message has been sent to this wallet. Legal notice, we have taken possession of this wallet and its contents. And then 25 minutes later, another message appeared, not abandoned, question mark, prove it by an on-chain transaction using private key by September 30th. Then basically 3 days pass or 4 days pass, and another message appears, notice to owner, see www.salomonbros.com/owner notice. And then after this, 1 day passes and the 10,000 Bitcoin are moved. So this gives us a story that first, this is a legal notice, or at least an attempt to appeal to legality. And that is interesting. It is obviously not legal to steal Bitcoin, but this is an appeal that this is this Bitcoin is lost, and you have to prove that you are the actual owner of this Bitcoin by an on-chain transactions. Otherwise, our theft is supposedly legal because we are just claiming Bitcoin that is not owned by anyone else. So that is an interesting take. I don't know if that would hold in court, but that is basically the implication here. And then the website here, salomonbros.com/owner notice. Let's go to that website and take a look at what it is. So this is the website here. Now, first off, what is Salomon Brothers? Salomon Brothers used to be a bank which got merged with Citibank many years ago. And this website has nothing to do with that bank. This is an anonymous website which was established, I think, 2022 or 2023. I don't remember exactly because it was laid out in this original article, but not in the copy-pasted version of the article. Now, when we read the notice here, it says, this digital wallet appears to be lost or abandoned. Our client has taken constructive possession of it and seeks to determine if there is a bona fide owner. This legal notice is posted pursuant to and in compliance with applicable law, and then a bunch of jargon, but here is a contradiction. They say the date October 10th, that by then you have to respond. Whereas on chain, it says not abandoned September 30th, you have to prove that you actually own this Bitcoin. So that is a contradiction. And then when you scroll down here, this is where it gets really interesting. So then they have the contact form where you have to fill in your details to basically dox yourself and your Bitcoin holdings, where you live, how old you are, and do you have a private key. So never ever ever fill these kind of forms if you see them anywhere. This is a clear phishing attempt, in my opinion. I don't see any reason for anyone to ever fill this form here. So in my opinion, this is a phishing attempt. This is not an elaborate scheme to steal Bitcoin. And besides, if this was stolen, this Bitcoin here, or if they actually gave the owner until September 30th, why was the Bitcoin then completely moved out of the wallet? Maybe it was moved to a safer holdings, obviously. But all in all, probably the Bitcoin was not stolen, because the Bitcoin was not moved immediately after this message was sent to this address. That is at least my belief. So what I believe actually happened is that the owner of this wallet got scared and moved his or her or its Bitcoin out of this wallet. Now let's take a look at another wallet which also appeared on the same time. So this wallet had 10,009 Bitcoin inside them, and it also got the same exact messages on June 30th, June 30th, and July 3rd. And then there's an interesting extra message which makes this inconsistent. And this is the message OP return 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. And this appeared exactly at 3 p.m. And then it took exactly 1 hour for the Bitcoin to be moved out of this wallet. Now, what happened here uh, is interesting because this sequence of numbers, let's go back to the article here. This sequence of articles is a direct reference to the TV series called Lost. So there's a couple of references that we can take out of this. The first one is obviously that the Bitcoin is lost, and this is the TV show. Then in the TV show, you have to input these numbers basically every hour to the machine, or the world will end. And that's basically what we saw here, is that this number was typed here, and then exactly 1 hour later, the Bitcoin were moved out of the wallet. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So clearly that was thought out of. And then there's a third reference here, which is to the episode from season 2, the episode 3. And here we can see that this was actually written by somebody called Craig Wright. Now, I did not check if this is the same Craig Wright as the imposter for Satoshi or a different Craig Wright, but all in all, it's the same name. And then we have the running time 42 minutes. And that is interesting because these numbers come up to 2, 3, 4, 2. And when we take a look at the sequence here in the numbers, you can see 2, 3, 4, 2, which is another coincidence. So we have a lot of different coincidences, and they seem to match. So all of this is super interesting in my opinion. So the question this article poses is, was Bitcoin weakness finally exploited? So the answer is it could have been. So between 2010 and 2013, the wallet generators back then had a problem, which is bad randomness, which meant that hypothetically you could find or backtrack your private key from your wallet if you had sophisticated software and you knew the logic behind the random number generator of the wallets of that era. So the idea is that you could basically find the private key of these legacy wallets back in that time. After that time, this bug or feature has actually been patched already. But as of now, this hasn't been an issue. But if this exploit actually exists and it has been used, that means a lot of Bitcoin could now be in jeopardy. So possibly a flawed key generator was reverse engineered, a known entropy bug was exploited, and if that is the case, then this would be the most sophisticated private key exploit in Bitcoin history, and it wouldn't be the last. And then when we scroll down here, basically the key takeaways is that if this was a test, we've been warned. If this was an attack, it was brilliant. And if it's real, it changes everything. So now I'm going to try to answer if this is actually real and what is my thought of it. Actually, I will not say my opinion yet. First off, let's go to Reddit, because the Redditors have their opinions that are quite interesting as well. So 3 days ago, somebody asks about this 80,000 Bitcoin move question, and he's trying to ask what actually happened here. And he's basically citing both of these websites here that I showed before. The other one goes to error 404 now. So while the hack hypothesis cannot be ruled out completely, it remains unsubstantiated, and most signs point to a routine key migration or improved wallet hygiene. And then those messages that you just saw on chain, they are just a scam. The scammer sends very small transactions to addresses high up on the Bitcoin rich address list that haven't sent any transactions in over a decade. And they include those same messages at the OP return field in those small transactions. That Salomon Bros website is not legitimate either. And then he points out that some other addresses also have received these messages. So I will show that now. So for example, this address here has 79,957 Bitcoin inside them, and this money was basically stolen from Mount Cogs way back when, and this is the wallet address. So when we take a look at that wallet, this is the wallet here. You can see one Feex, and this has that almost 80,000 Bitcoin inside them. And when we scroll down here, you can see that this also received these same messages on the same day. Legal notice: we have taken possession of this wallet and its contents, not abandoned, prove it by an on-chain transaction, and then Salomon Bros website. But as you can see, if this wallet address has actually been exploited, why hasn't the Bitcoin been moved yet? The Bitcoin is still sitting here on this wallet, unlike on the other wallet. If you are a hacker and you have access to somebody's wallets and you don't want them to keep their money, you probably want to move the Bitcoin to another wallet. So most likely this is simply a phishing situation. And my theory on these 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 is that this message was actually sent by the actual owner of the wallet, and is just trolling the fishers, and he moved the money to sell it on the public, as well as to move the Bitcoin to a safer place. That is my current belief. Now, it could still be that this is somehow hacked, and by September 30th or by October 10th, the Bitcoin will be sold or moved to somewhere else. But I doubt it, to be honest. So the other Redditors here says that the keys haven't been broken. Why wouldn't some OGs actually sell? And it just doesn't make sense to me. Cracking that makes so much sense. That makes so much more sense to me than cracking old wallets that he was just upgrading to a modern wallet. And then basically nothing else really interesting here. So that is basically everything I come up to, except one more thing, which is that these messages aren't completely in sync either. So the messages from 30th of June, when you take a look at who actually sent this message, this was sent by a rogue or basically an empty wallet that hasn't had any activity before sending that this notice here. So it's basically the only reason that this wallet exists is to send this one message. And when I looked at the other message here, that is the same thing. It only has one sent message. But then this salomonbros.com, this message is different, because when you take a look at the sender, this is the sender, and this sender is different from those other two because actually that was another one. So let me actually open I just saw something new that I hadn't seen before. So let me find it here. So this was the address. Yes, so it's the same thing. So this, you can see that on 3rd of July, this same address sent multiple of these same messages to multiple different wallets at the same time. So that is different from those two other messages. And some of these messages came on 2nd of July, some on 3rd of July. And when you take a look at these wallets here that this warning has been sent to, uh, they still have their Bitcoin also inside them. So that is curious, because if they actually wanted to exploit Bitcoin and take the money out of these wallets, why wouldn't they actually take the money from other wallets as well? And then the other thing that I just noticed is there was another date, basically another batch of these same messages, notice to owner and to the website salomonbros.com/owner notice. So these messages were sent on 9th of July to, again, some legacy wallets. So that is why some of the Redditors are basically saying that those messages are scam. But it could this could still be the case, that these first two messages are sent by another entity, and then this salomonbros.com message is sent by another entity. So we could be dealing with two different uh, phishing scammers, or maybe one of them is an exploiter and one of them is a phishing scammer. But I honestly believe that both of these are phishing scammers, and this lost reference is made by the actual owner of this wallet, and he's basically just trolling the fishers, and he's trolling everybody like me who is now making the video out of this whole situation with this lost reference. But I find this very interesting. But the good news, at least for now, is that most of these wallets, uh, none of them have basically been exploited except for these uh, well, not exploited, but only one of them has moved its money out, which is the owner of this 80,009 Bitcoin, which were held in multiple different wallets. And it seems like he is now selling its Bitcoin. So the conclusion here is that most likely it is not an exploit. Most likely it was a phishing attempt. And all in all, what we can expect in the short term is sell pressure from that owner. And I don't know his motivations or its motivations to sell, but most likely is legit, because he's selling through Galaxy Digital. So if he was a scammer, he would get caught through the Galaxy Digital. So most likely, whatever he's doing or it's doing or they are doing, most likely it is legal, and most likely all of these cryptic messages here are just phishing attempts. That is my take, and I hope you got some interesting info out of this, and I hope this story was interesting to you. But let me know in the comments if you believe this was a phishing attempt or if there is an exploit going on, and I'm curious to read other observations that you got from this video. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one, and bye bye.